Welcome, 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 beloved community. I am Django Sanders, and I will be giving you today's message. I'm substituting for our Reverend Tina, who is ill, and metaphorically, those are very large shoes to fill, and I have very small feet, so bear with me. So we're trying something different this morning. We're doing a welcoming before we do our announcements. And the reason behind that was that Reverend Tina wanted to be able to tell you what the service is today and maybe give you a few moments to barge towards the exit if it's not a message you want to hear as a possibility. So she wanted to try that. So we're going to do that. So what inspires today's message is my wife and I don't know about the rest of you, but my wife and I have been very concerned with what's been happening in Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Boston, Chicago, and even here in Sierra Vista with ICE, not just rounding up people that have broken the law, but gathering citizens and non-citizens and removing civil rights and human rights. And the two are not quite the same. So civil rights would be not giving people you've arrested due process, tear gassing people that have assembled peacefully to protest. Those are against our civil rights. And then human rights, killing U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens in the name of security, and also detaining people in detention centers, children and old people like me in detention centers. And these detention centers are going up across the country. So it's alarming. And this brought me to think that perhaps we should do a service on those Unitarian Universalists that were activists, that actually cared enough not to be worried and nervous, but to actually take action. And unfortunately, the ones I'm going to tell you about lost their lives in the service of civil rights and human rights. So that's what brought on the theme of today's talk. I will now give you Julia Jones and announcements. Thank you.
Hooray, you all wanted the announcements, didn't you? I'm your facilitator. And first we will engage in our usual ritual of silencing the cell phone and setting aside our everyday worries. Let me see, that wasn't the right way to do it. While we concentrate on the time we have together. If you have an announcement to share, or joys and sorrows, and you haven't done it yet, write up a little form in the back, and it will be magically transported to the front. And yes, Ricky, I will remember to give you your chance to talk too. If you're new here, it's time. Ask any one of us to help you get acquainted with the many activities that we would like to have you help us with. Get on the newsletter and all that other stuff. And now we've already welcomed you. Let's welcome our friends on Zoom who are waiting there behind the little red light. You have been seen. And our regular announcements. Freethinkers will meet today at 1 o'clock. This Monday, the 23rd at 11, we have a Good Company meeting. If you're feeling isolated, you can join them to meet new people and chat. We do that very well here. On Tuesday at 11, there will be meditation, also in this room, also at 11 o'clock. Always worthwhile. And then later that day, Tina will have office hours if she will be healthy enough by then. reach out to her by phone, text, or email, set up a meeting time so that you won't have to wait, or so that you can get a hold of her by phone if she's not well enough to come in on Tuesday. But she will be. We're thinking positively. On Thursday, the Widowing Tribe will meet. The Widowing Tribe is available to anyone who has lost a partner and is at any stage of grief. It's not tied to any religious belief. It is based in support with people who know what it is, what it's like to be inside this grief. And I have a special announcement. The Hummingbird Stitchers Quilt Guild is having a quilt show next weekend at Buena High School from 9 until about 3, both days. Admission is $7, and we are selling raffle tickets for a splendid quilt. Tickets will be available after services in the community room. 1 for $1, 6 for $5. Please step right up, because the mission of the Quilt Guild is to cover the world with quilts, I believe. Last fiscal year, we gave away 762 quilts to places like oncology, dialysis, Forgatch House. I don't think Peach's Pantry got any, but they could. We make quilts of valor. Anybody who needs warmth and something beautiful, we do it. So I think that's enough. Those are the announcements. Are there any others? Now we will have a moment for stewardship. That's in capital letters here, where Ricky will speak about our ongoing pledge drive.
Did you all enjoy the party last week?
Yes.
Did you get enough food? Excellent. Pat is going to give us our 1 minute of why he pledges. And Pat, you can do it from where you are.
So this is why I pledge. And I contribute because I want to support this church. I have co-audited the church's annual expenditures twice, and it caused me to see how important it was to contribute to the annual budget. Over the years, members came to me and said, if you need something, we're here for you. And I asked for help, and they provided it. And then I said to that person, can I pay you for what you did? And he said, I don't need the money. Give it to the church, which I did. And so I'm not Nostradamus, and I don't predict the future, but I do want you to know that we need to contribute to the future of this church. So that's why I contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I want to show you the bingo board and to remind you to please turn in your pledge cards as soon as possible. You can place them either in the collection box, the orange one that's out there, or you can hand them to our treasurer, who is not here today. But put them in the box and she gets them. Your pledge is your promise to support this congregation and this beloved fellowship. And it's like an engine, a car. It needs gas, and your pledge is that gas. Your financial support can show how much you care and cherish this congregation, this fellowship. And as Pat stated, we are there for each other. You're in the hospital and you want somebody to come visit you, we're there for you. You need extra help maybe with a rent or a high electricity bill, we're there for you. You're there just because you need somebody to talk to. We're there for each other. So this could be your way of showing how much you care. And we have had, you can all see that, 2/3 of our fellowship have already contributed. So give yourselves a hand. Thank you. And you can see the little red hearts. I wish they were bigger, but that's what I got. So you all know your number if you've got a pledge card. And it isn't so much that how much you can give. It's how much you cherish this congregation, this fellowship, and the people that you love that are here. And this is just one of the ways you can show it. So thank you.
And as you may remember, we had not exactly a raffle, we have a prize. We drew names from the people who pledged early, and one of them has been the lucky person. I think she's not in here. Yes, she is. She's here today, sitting in among us. The lucky receiver of the first prize in the pledge drive is Georgia Brown. And she has won a fantastic gift card to Amazon. For $10, but it does mean that we appreciate it, and you were one of the first ones.
All right.
Yay! And now it is time for the chalice lighting. As we light our flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we'll hear these words from early Unitarian minister and transcendentalist, the Reverend Theodore Parker. We cannot understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one, and our eyes reach but a little way. We cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. But we can divine it by conscience, and we surely know that it bends toward justice. Justice will not fail. Though wickedness appears strong and has on its side the armies and thrones of power, the riches and the glory of the world, and though poor men crouch down in despair, justice will not fail and perish out from the world of men, nor will what is really wrong and contrary to God's real law of justice continually endure. We are a caring congregation and share what gives us joy and what weighs heavily on our heart. I'll read the joys and sorrows I have here and then add a stone to our water for each one. Are there any more in the back? Nope. We have a joy from Richard Spencer, and he says, "The Houston Cougars never lost a game on their home court all season until yesterday, when the Arizona Wildcats showed up and held on to hand the Cougars their first defeat at home." Everyone give a rah-rah. Alas, Tina had two sorrows. One was for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who we know died recently. He attended the same seminary that Tina did, the Chicago Theological Seminary, and his presence was palpable there. Tina studied with his son and mourns the voice that spoke up so often. And in a more local vein, our dear longtime member, Susie Fawcett, was put on hospice this week. Her stepson, Paul, gave her permission to share this with the church. And Tina will be visiting her as soon as she gets over being contagious. We also have a painting by Susie Fawcett. Apparently she did watercolors, and two prints. They are on the table in the community room next to the birthday cards. You should take a look at them. They're really nice. How many of you remember her? Oh my gosh, a lot. See, I never met her. I'm a recent joiner. Are there any other things? Anyone thought of something already? Yes, Georgia. A fast-breaking news item, the U.S. beat Canada in hockey.
I have a short story about a man who took his family to his first Unitarian Universalist service. And on his way home from that service, all he did was complain. He said, the music was too loud. The sermon was too long, and I don't think I ever heard the word God mentioned once. The announcements were just too many, and I didn't know what in the world they were talking about. And the building was hot, and on and on and on he went complaining. Finally, his son spoke up and said, Dad, you've got to admit it wasn't a bad show for the dollar you put in the collection plate. I thought we'd have a meditation today before we get to the message. So this is a Buddhist meditation called a metta meditation or a loving kindness meditation. And so the point of it is I'm going to read this mantra to you, and for 3 minutes of silence you're going to ruminate on this mantra and send this message out to the universe. And so the message is, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. So we're going to meditate for 3 minutes in silence, and we will start. Hopefully you sent a message of love and hope to all those that are out there. When I mentioned the detention centers, I forgot to mention in the welcoming that Thursday, last week, the 19th, was Remembrance of the Japanese Internment Camp Day. And so history has a way of repeating itself, and we have to be vigilant. We just cannot be complacent as citizens in this country. So I want to tell you about 3 people. And initially I was going to say they were ordinary people that were extraordinary because of the circumstances. But I think I'd like to change that to these were 3 extraordinary people, and I'd like to think that we here, with Unitarian Universalist values and principles, can also be extraordinary people when it's called upon us. Because that's what happened with these 3 people. They decided, instead of being angry and troubled and worried, they became activists in their own right. So 2 of these people were Unitarian Universalist ministers, actually Unitarian ministers, and the other was a medical laboratory assistant. And what they had in common, besides being 3 UUs, was that the world they lived in was turned upside down. What was accepted in their individual worlds was morally corrupt and indefensible. Yet they saw people stand by and allow crimes against humanity and against civil rights to stand. So these 3 people decided that being angry, upset, and frightened was not enough. They took a stand and followed their UU values, and unfortunately paid the ultimate price, their deaths, because of that. I'm not asking any of you to do that. Before we get to these 3, though, I'd like to mention other UUs that also gave their lives for their values. The first 5 of these were about the denial of the Trinity. Unitarians were very big about Jesus not being a God, but being a person. And so the first one on this page is Francis Ferenc David, born 1510, 1579. He was the founder of the Unitarian Church in Transylvania. Convicted of heresy and charged with innovation, was imprisoned and died in prison because of his anti-Trinity beliefs. Michael Servetus, 1511 to 1553, burned at the stake by Calvinists in Geneva for denying the Trinity. Ludwig Heitzer, 1500 to 1529, for preaching Jesus was a teacher, not a God. Edward Whiteman, 1566 to 1612, burned for being a heretic in England. His crime, denying the Trinity and other views of church doctrine. Iwan Tyszkiewicz, 1611, was beheaded in Poland for being a Socinian Unitarian. Those are Reformation Unitarians. His crime was blasphemy and heresy, and he was killed at the Great Marketplace in Warsaw. And finally, a little more contemporary, James Reeb, 1927 to 1965, a Unitarian minister, beaten to death by white supremacists and white segregationists, and probably by white police at the Selma to Montgomery March. So, something to behold. So the first person that I want to speak about is someone that Tina has mentioned more than one time here. That's Norbert Fabian Čapek. It's a CH in Czechoslovakian. Born in 1870, and he died in 1942. He was the founder of the UU Church in Czechoslovakia. He established a large liberal movement in Prague. He was born in Bohemia and was born a Baptist, but he became an ordained minister in 1922 as a UU minister in Prague, where he established the UU Church there. He brought his UU values and ideas to Eastern Europe. He first became interested in Unitarianism in 1910. He tried to get the American Unitarian Association to support his efforts for a liberal religion, but he failed. So he moved to the United States, where he thought he could get some help. So in 1914, he moved to the U.S. because he was tipped off that the Austrian authorities were going to arrest him for anti-Catholic views. And he was tried for heresy in 1915, but was acquitted, fortunately. He was active at this time in the movement for an independent Czechoslovakia. How he got into... Oh, hey. They're always listening. Be careful. He had 3 children. So this is how he got into Unitarian Universalism, or Unitarianism. So he had 3 children. In New Jersey, he sent them out to various churches to report back what church is the best one for he and his wife to attend. And so his children came back and reported the Unitarian church was the best. So he and his wife, Maya, attended and declared the congregation had not only clear heads, but warm hearts. So in 1922, the Prague Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship was born. His wife also became an ordained minister in June of 24. The first flower communion was celebrated. If that sounds familiar, all Unitarian Universalist churches have a flower communion once a year. And how this came about was that his congregation was so diverse that he told his congregants, bring a flower and put it in a large vase, and when you leave, take a different flower with you. So each member took a different flower, and the symbolism was a gesture of beauty and diversity of the congregants and in life in general. And now for the darkness of the story. In 1941 of March, he and his daughter Zora were arrested by the Gestapo. He was given an 11-month sentence and his daughter 18 months for listening to Radio Free Europe. But there's something deeper than that, actually, because what is the first principle of Unitarian Universalism? The worth and dignity of all beings. And they were under Germany control, which said that there was a master race, the Aryan race. And so his teaching went against the government. And so they needed to get rid of him. So a Gestapo officer decided to override that 11-month sentence and sent him to Dachau with a note attached to his papers saying, "Return unwanted." He arrived in July of 1942, and in October he was gassed. His legacy, Toward a Sunnier Shore, written in 1939, at a time of great sadness for my nation, a few rays of sun to the wounds of the heart. Its essential message: people can choose their own moods, direct their own feelings, and above all, try everything with humor. He celebrated the hidden cry for harmony with the divine. Every person is the embodiment of God, and in every one of us, God struggles for a higher expression. The church's task is to put truth above any tradition, spirit above any scripture, freedom above authority, and progress above reaction. Our next person is Viola Liuzzo, born April 11th, 1925, and died March 25th, 1965. She was born to a poor family in Pennsylvania, and then her family moved to Georgia, and then finally to Tennessee, where she grew up in a very racially charged, segregated area of the South. She lived in a one-room shack with no running water. Her family then moved to Detroit, Michigan, where racial tensions were running high as black and white families vied for low-paying jobs and cheap housing. There was violence and rioting between ethnic groups, and as a 16-year-old girl, Viola was influenced by what she saw and had led to her civil rights activism years later. She had 5 children, 2 with her first husband and 3 with her second. But it was in 1964 she attended her first Unitarian church and then joined the NAACP. You might wonder what a large part of her activism was about. It was due to her friendship with a woman named Sarah Evans, who was a black woman she met while she worked in the grocery store. The 2 women were both from the South and connected, having similar views on many issues, including civil rights. Viola's first attempt at activism was protesting against the Detroit schools policy, which allowed children to drop out of high school way too easily. She withdrew her own children from public school as an opposition to the policy and homeschooled them. And not surprising, she was arrested for homeschooling her children and was given 2 months probation. But then when she saw the brutality against the 600 peaceful civil rights protesters crossing the Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama by the hands and clubs of the police and white segregationists on TV, she was horrified. The very next night, James Reeb was beaten to death by a group of white supremacists. On March 16th, she told her husband she would drive to Selma as a response to Dr. Martin Luther King's call for support from people of all faiths to come to aid, that it's everyone's fight. So she was put to work delivering aid, welcoming and recruiting volunteers, and transporting volunteers to and from the bus station, the airport, and the train stations. On Thursday, Viola and 25,000 others reached the state capital of Montgomery. But her work continued. She helped, with the help of 19-year-old Leroy Moten, she drove people from Montgomery back to Selma. But she was warned that it was going to be dangerous. At a stop sign, with 4 white men pulled up alongside her. When they saw she was with a black man, they followed her car. They overtook her Oldsmobile and shot her directly in the head twice, killing her. The car crashed, and she was 39 years old. The three of the assailants in the car were from the KKK, and the other was an FBI informant. They checked the car out, and when they saw all the blood that was also on Moten, they thought he was dead, so they left, thinking they had killed both of them. Well, the state put them on trial, the 3 KKK men. The FBI informant was given witness protection. He disappeared. The state put them on trial, and they were found not guilty, of course. But that was very embarrassing to LBJ at the time, who was president, because he knew there was an FBI informant. So he reached back and used the 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act to put the men back on trial for denying the civil rights of Viola and Moten, Leroy Moten. And they were each given 10 years in prison. And again, the FBI informant disappeared. As a side note to all this, because there was an FBI informant, J. Edgar Hoover took no time to defame and slander Viola. Sounds familiar, right? Mm-hmm. So, to inflammatory characterization, he accused her of having an affair with Leroy Moten and that she was a heroin addict and had track marks up and down her arms. As it turns out, of course, she was not having an affair with anyone, and she had no drugs in her system. Her friend Sarah Evans raised her children. Another side note, 10 years after the fact, Viola's family found out that there was an FBI informant in that very vehicle that murdered her, and they took the government to trial and lost. So That is the tale of Viola. The final compelling story is Toribio Samadiha Quimada, born 4/27/1917 and died May 23rd, 1988. He was born a Roman Catholic in the Philippines. At that time, the Catholic Church discouraged people from reading the Bible. Their reason was that the Bibles that you could get hold of were written by Martin Luther, a Protestant, so not good. So Toribio found it difficult to hear about damnation and salvation from a loving God that would condemn some people to hell. That was his first awakening to Universalism, where there's salvation universally for everyone. So, anyway, so in 1936, he and his wife moved from Cebu to Negros in the Philippines, where his uncle was a Presbyterian minister and gave his nephew his first Bible to read. In 1943, he converted to Protestantism, and he was ordained in 1948. He called his church Iglesia Universal de Cristo. In 1951, he was looking for some external support for his church. And so, of course, he found a book of churches in the United States, and he thought, well, I'll see if I can find a church that will help support my new burgeoning church. And because his church was Iglesias Universal, he looked under U. And what did he find? He found the Universalist Church of Wisconsin, much to his surprise, which led to the Universalist Service Committee, which sent him not only money, but pamphlets and reading material. And it was shortly after that that he started using universal ideas in his service and his congregation. So guess what? In 1954, he was expelled from the ministry and founded the first Universalist Church of the Philippines. The Universalist Church of America sent him funds and resources to help him continue his education. His congregation was mostly farmers, and his message of land reform was not popular with the government. He helped his local farmers get land deeds to their properties, again, not in the best interest of the Philippine government. In fact, he ran for office and he lost the election because his name and Universalism was smeared. Again, sound familiar? Character assassination. Undetermined, he continued to fight for social justice. In fact, in 1984, the International Association of Religious Freedom gave him the Albert Schweitzer Award for Distinguished Service in the cause of liberal religion. In 1985, his church became the UU Church of the Philippines when the Unitarians and Universalists combined. He wrote a number of church songs that could be found in our UU songbooks, and if you remember, the first song we sang was written by him. Now the darkness. In May 23rd, 1988, he was shot to death in his home by a paramilitary group that also burned church records, hymn books, and worship material. But his daughter took over the ministry. Although no one was ever charged for his murder, there is little doubt that the price he paid for his activism was his assassination by the government. So I want to leave you with some words that I saw on a T-shirt the other day. The T-shirt said, "When they came for the immigrants, I took action because I know how the rest of this bloody poem works."
As we end worship and extinguish our chalice, let these words from Rosa Parks support you on your way. To bring about change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try. Now we may go in peace.
Thanks for indulging me.